Welcome to the Law School Insider, where we have conversations with students, lawyers, and employers.
Succeeding in law school is something that you must prepare for, not only before you begin, but throughout your law school journey, and that's what this podcast is all about. I am your host, Dr. Christopher Lewis, and I will draw from my over 20 years of experience in the college admission field, as well as bring forth the experiences of others as we delve deeper into the issues. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Law School Insider. I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Lewis, and I'm so excited to have you back with us again this week. This week, I am really excited to be able to bring you John Mashni of Foster Swift in Lansing, Michigan. And John is a graduate of Western Michigan University Cooley Law School, and he was really intentional about the journey that he went on through law school. We've talked in the past, and I know that he really thought very hard about the things that he would be doing, the classes that he would be taking, and really was intentional about the decisions that he made to set him up for the success that he's found in his own career. As he exited law school, and we'll talk more about this, he was able to find a job right away. And that says a lot. So I want to have him talk to us a little bit about his experiences and his journey into finding the success that he has found. So John, thanks so much for joining us this week.
Hey, thanks. Great to be here with you.
You know, John, as I said, I know that the journey that you went on was a very intentional one because you came into law school a little bit older than some of the other students that were in law school. You had had some work experience behind you. Now, talk to us a little bit about that intentional process that you went through and some of the decision-making that you went through and why you came in with that type of mindset.
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. I think for me, I had an opportunity to work for about 9 years prior to attending law school. And really, I had done many different kind of jobs or had different, positions. I'd done sales. I'd been involved in a kind of a startup company and worked my way up. I think I was employee number 3 or 4. And eventually, when I left there, I think we're 50 or 60 people that were working there. And that was right before I went to law school in 2010. And then actually I'd done freelance work on my own. So I had a company where I would just do freelance audio and video work, which was related to what I was doing, for that startup company. And really, I had really learned a lot of really good lessons through all those experiences, being a business owner on multiple occasions, kind of being in middle management where I had to hire people, unfortunately also fire people, really been kind of involved in managing a group of people. And so I'd had a lot of different experiences. And so when I came to law school, it was specifically to, reinvent myself, to put it kind of bluntly, and also to define and develop a new career. And I really thought very intentionally about taking all of my prior experiences. What did I learn? What did I like? What did I not like? And saying, okay, what am I specifically going to get out of these next 3 years in law school? And I was married at the time. I didn't have any kids at the time, but we were kind of in the mode of trying to start a family with my wife. And so there wasn't a lot of time to waste. So I really had to plan very carefully and be very specific about what I was going to do. And that kind of led to when we talked about being intentional. That's why really I had to be intentional. Even when I started law school, I was working about 30 hours a week for my former employer who, I kind of continued as an independent contractor just to make sure that they still had continuity in their business and things like that. So really, that's the purpose of why I had to be intentional. And I think for me, I just looked at it as this glorious opportunity to go through school, learning all these hard lessons that I feel like I learned in the last 9 years. Now,
I know that you said that going into law school, you were very intentional. Now, define that for me so that the people, that everyone else that is listening can have a better understanding of what does that mean. So you came into law school and you asked yourself those questions, but then how did that manifest itself on a daily basis and in the things that you decided to get involved in or the classes that you decided to take?
Yeah, absolutely. I think intentional to me started with this thought. What do I want to do and what do I want to be and what do I want to have at the end of law school when I graduate? And for me, it came down to I want to have a way to make money using my law degree. And it really came down to something as simple as that. And I said, okay, well, what's the absolute worst case scenario? For me, it was No one wants to hire me, so I have to go into practice for myself. And I decided that every decision that I would make would either help me find a job, find employment, or it would help me be a solo practitioner and would develop my skills. And so literally I could walk out of law school being able to practice. So just looking at that as the end goal, it really allowed me to say, well, what skills do I need to develop right now so that I can, end up in that place and hit that goal that I just articulated. And so you kind of work backwards and you say, okay, well, what do I need to do in my first term? What do I need to do in my second term, third term, et cetera? And for me personally, I placed a very high premium on practical skills. I read quite a few books actually prior to entering into law school about kind of how to do law school. And I don't even remember the names or the authors, but I really got a lot of good practical advice on which activities were really helpful and which activities, maybe aren't necessarily as helpful to get a job. They're more so maybe just fun to do or interesting. And I kind of divided up the activities that, you have as options, based on, is this going to help me develop skills? Is it going to help me build a network? Is it going to help me learn practical skills that are going to be really useful to people? And then also, is it just interesting? That was something that I did consider. And so I actually had a big overarching goal, and maybe this will not necessarily fit in the intentionality, exactly as we were talking about it. But my first initial goal was I wanted to stay married in law school. It might sound crazy to say that. I mean, not crazy, but it has nothing to do with school. But I said, that's like a non-negotiable to me. I won't make decisions that really jeopardize my marriage, because I'd read all these stories and you hear all these different things about people getting divorces going through law school. And so to be intentional about my marriage, that was, maybe the first thing that I decided was, hey, I'm going to stay married. That's goal number one, more important than grades or getting a job or anything like that. So I did stay married, and I'm still married. And so you can do that going through law school. But then going back to, finding employment and really finding a career that I would like. I think intentional, even for me, meant this. What do I want my lifestyle to be like as I practice? Who do I want to work for? Who do I want to represent? What clients do I want to have? Do I want to work for the government? Do I want to work in, the judicial branch? Do I want to work for a private firm, large firm, small firm, medium-sized firm? Do I want to do litigation? Do I want to do transactional work? All those kind of questions I think are really important. And you don't just decide, you really have to go meet all different kinds of people, all different kinds of attorneys, and figure out what you like and what you don't like. And for me, it started with, well, what do I want my life to look like? And I really thought that, and one thing I learned too, just talking with a lot of different attorneys, was that it really matters the people that you represent, because you spend a lot of time with those people, whether it's on the phone or thinking about their particular problems. And what I noticed is that a lot of people in litigation that I talked to were really stressed out, and their clients were never happy. And so I'm not saying litigation can't be fun, and I think it is kind of fun, and it's very, it can be kind of an adrenaline rush, and it's very fun and competitive, to be honest. But I kind of thought that maybe a transactional practice would be more appropriate to the lifestyle that I wanted to have. And it's still, a transactional practice doesn't mean that you never litigate, and it doesn't mean you don't have any stress. But I really liked business, and like I said, I'd owned a couple of businesses, and I really like entrepreneurs. And to me, if entrepreneurs are coming to me with their business problems, they have a different kind of energy than someone who's coming, let's say, and they need a divorce, or they're having children, or a problem with their children, or different kinds of business disputes going on, right? And so I thought I would try to build my legal skills around this concept of trying to help business owners, entrepreneurs, people that have this kind of creative energy. And I really tried to say, okay, well, what kinds of skills do I need to develop in order to provide those kinds of legal services? So I started with, who do I want to represent? And then I kind of worked backwards from there. And what kind of lifestyle do I want to have? And like I said, work backwards from there.
In law school, you did a little bit more than that. You got yourself involved in a number of different things, like you said, very intentional things, but in a lot of different things. And I know that in one of the courses that you took, you created something that not everyone creates that was very unique. You not only created, let's say, a resume, which is required, we'll say, for getting a job, but you went beyond that. And you created a website that would allow for you to be able to kind of showcase some of the skills and other things that you had. And your website has been used by our Associate Dean for Enrollment and Student Services many times as an example of what to do. But talk to us about that process and why it was important for you to be able to show yourself in that way as you were going into the job market after law school.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question, in fact. And it's kind of maybe a fun story, too, in the sense that I used to do marketing for a living. That was part of my job. I ran a media department. And so a big part of what I did was marketing along with audio, projects, video projects, similar to what we're doing now, a lot of graphic design work, and then actually some kind of interesting kind of FTC regulatory job responsibilities. So in that particular class you were talking about, one of the projects was to create kind of this professional portfolio. And in my marketing brain immediately thought of different things I could do. And I immediately kind of thought, I don't really want to take this 3-ring binder with me to a job interview. It just doesn't seem very appropriate. Or maybe it's like maybe kind of 5 or 10 years behind where my marketing mind, wanted to be. But I do realize that in general, the legal profession is about 5 or 10 years behind kind of the trend and cutting edge kind of marketing and things like that. And so I understood that, yes, it's very important to have a resume. And if people ask for a cover letter, don't just say, no, I refuse to do a cover letter, or refuse to send you a resume. There's many places that will still ask for those things. And it's very appropriate and it's normal, right? But I thought, I don't want to take this binder with me to these job interviews. It just, I will feel kind of like a dork, just here's this 3-ring binder and here's different projects that I've worked on and here's all about John Mashni. And I thought too, because I've interviewed people to hire them. And so I've been in the situation where people will hand me stuff and I thought, I don't know if that's the way that I want to represent myself, because to me, and this is such a phenomenal experience that I personally had, I hired a lot of people, and within like 30 seconds, maybe to 5 minutes, I really kind of knew if they were what I was looking for or not. And I still had maybe a 45-minute or hour-long interview with that person, but I kind of knew very quickly if they were what I was looking for. I could look at their resume and then I could talk to them, and I just knew very quickly. And that taught me a couple things. One was that never feel bad if you don't get a job if you go for an interview, because first of all, they pretty much know what they're looking for, and you either have it or you don't. And you can't control. Just as long as you put your best foot forward, you present yourself in the best possible way, then that's all you can control. You don't know what they're looking for, even though they might say, here's the, minimum requirements or things like that, or here's what we're looking for. So I told myself, as I was interviewing people in my prior job, I said, I'm never going to feel bad if I don't get a job, because someone's always looking for something specific. And if I don't have it, I don't have it. The other thing I learned was that it's really important to have I'm not sure the best way to describe it, but that you want them to have this awesome impression of you before you go into the interview. And I can honestly remember various people where we just Googled them, or we kind of learned a little bit about them, or looked up their social media profiles and all those kinds of things before the individual interviewed at my prior job. And we learned amazing things about them that oh my goodness, was very shocking, right? And not the best way. And so I thought, well, what if I could create some method or some portfolio that would kind of have this positive wave effect, that even before I arrived, they were really excited to meet me. They already knew a lot about me. And so the conversation didn't go from, hey, this is on your resume, or this is, tell me about yourself. They already knew all about me, and that they would ask me very specific and pointed questions. And they'd probably be really interested in me because I had this positive wave come already and land on their lap right before I came to the interview. And so that led to me asking the 2 professors that were teaching the course, can I do something a little different? I'm not totally comfortable with this portfolio concept. And I think they were kind of a little reluctant to say, yeah, sure. But I just said, I really felt like this is the way to go. And I think I recall saying, if you don't like it, then I'll just do the other regular portfolio and it'll be fine. And so I actually just created a website really inexpensively, but I put a lot of my accomplishments on there. I put my different testimonials that certain people had said about me, which were really kind of very flattering and really kind, and I think pretty accurate comments. Nothing was really over the top and deceptive or anything. It was just, this is what people have said about me in my prior kind of context. And then I linked to my LinkedIn profile, and I really treated my LinkedIn profile as my online resume. And that to me made a lot of sense because, this was 5 or 6 years ago, but today, I think LinkedIn is really pretty recognized as like a great way to kind of put your credentials out there and have a resume available to a lot of people. But at the time, that's what I saw it as, is I can just post my resume and I don't have to send it to anybody. I can just say, go look at my LinkedIn, right? It was just made so much sense to me. I thought it was kind of old school to just hand out a paper resume, right? And then on my LinkedIn profile, I really kept it up to date. I put a lot of accomplishments. I also, asked people to write, the testimonials or recommendations or whatever LinkedIn calls it. And I treated that as my resume. So I used my webpage to link to LinkedIn. And then I tried to give people a broader idea of what I'm about as a person. And so I worked a lot with a charity and a nonprofit in the local area here. And I kind of did this in-depth write-up about how I spend my extra time and put it in there as well. And I put, I think, a link to my Twitter profile and things like that just to show that I'm relatively social media savvy, or at least I know what social media is, which that's probably a huge step forward for an attorney, especially 5 years ago. So that kind of led to what went into the website. But when I officially showed it to the two professors, I just had like this kind of stock picture that I found and I thought was appropriate, but it was kind of this placeholder because I actually had paid someone to take really nice photographs of me that I envisioned to put on this website. And so they initially saw the website, they're like, it's okay, it's good, it's fine. But when I later posted this picture that I paid someone to take, both professors were just like floored because it was a very high quality picture. It's still on my website to this day. And it, in my opinion, it's like looks better than I look now. I mean, I don't think I ever looked that good, maybe for like half a second on that day. But, it really was an impressive professional picture. And it just, I think, presented me in a really, really good way. And it just allowed me to put my best foot forward. So that allowed me to send people to that. And I put that website on all my resumes. And, I put it in the bottom of my emails so that people could see it as like an email link. And so it really gave me kind of, like I said, that wave that if someone really wanted to Google me and check me out, that's the first thing that popped up. Now, the place where I work now, I don't even think they saw that. They just wanted my resume and cover letter, and there you go. But I actually, when I graduated, I had 2 other job offers. And one of the job offers came from an acquaintance of mine who literally saw that website and offered me a job on the spot. Like literally, hey, please come work for me. And I would have loved to take that job. It was just not in kind of the geographic area that I wanted to be in, but it would have been a phenomenal job. And what the gentleman said was, anyone that understands how to market that well before they even graduate law school is going to do great with me. And so it just shows you that there is a marketing component to being in private practice. And I would even say in any type of legal career or occupation.
I know that as you exited law school, you did have, like you said, you did have some job offers. And not every law school graduate does, especially when you came out, you were up against some pretty hard times. It was a pretty dry market. So what did you do to help yourself stand apart, to be able to have those 3 offers on the table that might help other people to set themselves up for similar opportunities?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's probably a lot that I did, starting with that website, which was really helpful. But the website just demonstrated my skills. I think that's something that I always was very conscious of. Demonstrate skills. Demonstrate that you have skills that would be valuable to an employer. Like I said, I'd hired people before, and what you look for is solving problems that you have as an employer. I need someone to solve my problems. And if you can't do that, then it's very tough to say, okay, I'm going to hire this person. So for me, it came down to, like I said earlier, developing legal skills that are marketable. So I did a lot of clinics in law school. I pretty much did as many clinics as I could. I did estate planning clinic, elder law clinic. I did 2 terms of that. I did a nonprofit and corporation clinic where I really learned about tax-exempt organizations and nonprofits. And I just tried to gain practical skills. So that's one thing, one piece, because in those clinics, you're actually doing legal work that you can go out and market as soon as you graduate, as soon as you have a law license. Another aspect that I think really helped me personally was that every term of law school, I tried to gain one new experience that was really different than what other people would have. Because I think a lot of times when you go through law school and you go to the career counseling department or whatever department it is called at your law school, they will tend to recommend the same kinds of activities, right? Go do this particular externship, go work at this particular type of office, and those kinds of things. And I said, okay, well, if you want to differentiate yourself, because that's what it's really about, if you want a job, you have to appear different than other people and quite frankly, better, right? And more attractive. So I said, I don't want to have the stock experiences that everyone else is going to have. So from my very first term in law school, I recognized that I have business experience. Very few other people have that. The other thing I recognized was that I wanted to have experience for myself, but also for professionally. I wanted to have experiences across the spectrum of different types of legal workplaces. So, for example, my very first term, I reached out to a state rep who I just said, well, I kind of want to see what it's like to work like in the legislature a little bit, work for a state rep. So I literally emailed him. I got a referral. I said, hey, we know the same people. Can I come in and help you? We kind of believe the same things, and this person referred me to you. And look, I would love to do legal work because I'm a first-term law student, but if I can't, I'll just answer phones or whatever. And this was free of charge. I wasn't looking for a job. I was trying to gain some great experience. And this was definitely not something to build a resume. It was, I honestly wanted the experience, see what it's like. The guy said, sure. And he said, absolutely, come, let's meet. And he said, well, can you just research things for me? Because at the time he was having some really kind of severe health issues with his daughter. And so he said, I really don't have very much time to look at certain issues. Can you do that for me? And so I gained some research skills working for this gentleman. And then I really learned about some issues in terms of politically, and they weren't kind of charged political issues. They were just some current political issues that were going on, and it wasn't partisan at all. It was just, hey, learn as much as you can about this so I can make a good decision. And he never told me what he wanted me to figure out. He just said, do the research and I'll form an opinion. It was a fantastic experience. My first term of law school, it was like my first, second, and then part of my third terms. And then I had to actually stop working for him because just by chance would have it, he was picked to be lieutenant governor, and now he's the current lieutenant governor of the state of Michigan. And so I tell you that story because people always say, wow, that's really lucky and all this kind of stuff. And the lieutenant governor, it's like, yeah, maybe that a lot of that is true, but it came from an honest desire, an honest and very earnest, action to learn something that I wanted to learn. And I think the best advice not the best, but some of the best advice I could give people is that I never did anything to put it on my resume. I just never did it to put it on my resume. I wanted to gain experiences, build contacts, and do things that I was interested in. And I thought the best things that I do will go on my resume. And that's just kind of how I thought about building a resume. And now you could even say a LinkedIn profile. Not everything is on my resume that I did. Not everything is on my LinkedIn profile that I did. I only put the best stuff on there. But I had a lot to choose from because every term I said I'm going to do one activity. If I stop doing one the prior term, I'll add a new one. And it just came down to that was a great opportunity. And then I said I'd like to work for a judge. So I did an internship for a court of appeals judge for the Sixth Circuit. That was one of the best experiences I've had in my whole legal career. Really learned insight into how the particular court works and how judges make decisions. And I got to go to the Sixth Circuit and listen in on some of the cases that I actually wrote bench memos for, which was a phenomenal experience, and got to go to the judges' chambers and listen in on, hey, here's what he thinks about this, and here's what this person says. And it was very illuminating, to learn, hey, here's how decisions actually get made. So I felt like not many people would have that particular experience. And so that was something that I sought out and I thought would be great. Here's another example. I wanted to work for a very small firm. So I worked for a 2-person firm that was a great experience, but it's not one of the most impressive things that I've ever done. But it actually allowed me to put something on my resume as I was applying for some of the other jobs, in my second year of law school. I did that in my first year. So really, like I said, I never did anything to put it on my resume. I did it because I was very interested in gaining that particular experience and those particular skills. When you add all that up, I think there's obviously more to it than just, how do you get a job? For me, I also thought about, well, how can I present myself in a way that it's a no-brainer that you should hire me? And so I really thought about what makes me, hireable. And to me, I realized, back from my management days, you really need to generate about 2 to 2.5 times someone's salary in order to make it worthwhile to hire somebody. That's just kind of the rule of thumb, right? Because you have taxes and benefits, and it actually has to be worthwhile to have them, associated with your kind of the employer, that type of thing. So I thought, well, how can I provide, 2.5 times more value than what someone would pay me? And so I thought about very specific business considerations, right? What makes me valuable? And I thought, number one, you're always valuable because of your network. Always, always, always. It doesn't even matter what the job is. I think your network can bring a lot of value to your workplace, whether you're self-employed or work for somebody else. And so one of the things I'd done actually since 2001, actually, when that was kind of when I started working, I was actually in my undergraduate days then, but I started to track every single person that I emailed or came in contact with, and I just kept them in like an address book. I think in the mid 2000s, I found a program that would literally track every interaction I had. And so while I was in law school, I really continued that habit of tracking my network. And I used the software program, and I think by the time I graduated from law school, it was around 3,500 to 4,000 different contacts that I tracked, that I'd emailed or corresponded with since about 2001. And I really became serious about staying in touch with my network. And to this day, I've kind of, become a little more sophisticated in how I do that. And there's better tools now. In fact, the one tool that I was using got bought out by LinkedIn, and then they destroyed it, probably integrated it into LinkedIn. But I think the key point that I'd like to make is that your network is very, very important. Most people, I think, don't think about that until they're kind of in a job already, and there's pressures already to, find work or find business or get involved in the community, and they don't have that, and so they have to build it from scratch at that point. But I made it very clear in all my cover letters and even in my LinkedIn profile and any type of interaction that I had, is that I was very grounded, and I had a lot of contacts personally, and I could call on those people, and I was someone that was connected, and that was very known to people. And it was actually kind of comical, even when I was a summer associate where I now work. We were in Lansing, and we would always be out and about, and it seemed like every social event I would see someone that I knew. And it was just people almost got sick of it. Like, oh, of course, Mashni knows somebody, because it's like everywhere we go, Mashni knows somebody. But it kind of made me laugh inside, because it's like, obviously, all of those are chance meetings. I never planned to bump into people that I knew, but it came from a very intentional source. I was very intentional about maintaining a network, and I never had this attitude of I did it just to do it, or I did it because I was just trying to build a network. It was always an honest, and really, it came from a place where I really cared about people, and I just was trying to help people and connect people, and it just kind of naturally developed. It wasn't something that I'm ever chasing down, and it's not like I just want to connect with people to connect with people. It always came from this really kind of deep-rooted belief that, people are important to me, and that people are more important than the process. So I think I just kind of talked about a lot, like how did I get a job, but I think those things were really important. And then I think to top it all off, I just had a strong business mind, that I really understood what it takes. And here's a great example of what I mean by that. When I was a freelancer, I had no skills and I had no clients, and I'd actually had a day job. So I thought, well, I kind of want to use my freelance work to develop skills in audio and video, and I did motion graphics and things like that. So I said, well, I don't have any clients, but I thought, here's an idea to get some clients. I'll contact 5 people that I know, and I say I will do this work for free for them if they just promise to give me a good testimonial, and they let me use the work that I do on my demo reel, and then I could show it to other people. Well, I didn't even get to like 5, because by the time I did, I think it was 2 or 3, I had a really cool demo reel, and I'd already have other people ask me to do work for them based on that demo reel. And so it really taught me, how do you get clients? And it was start off doing work for free, and then gradually you get positive referrals if you do a really good job, and it just kind of snowballs from there. And that mindset, to me, I just carried over into how I would develop a practice, whether being a solo practitioner, whether working for a firm, anywhere in between. I thought about that's how I can get a job because there's already people that are going to be knocking on my door. And to say, how do you get a job? I think it's more a matter of using everything that you have at your disposal and figuring out how can I provide value to somebody else.
Well, everyone that's listening today, listen to this again and again, because John just gave you a ton of value-laden information that is going to help you in your own job search, in your own law school journey. Now, John, before we finish up today, I would be remiss to not ask you if you have any final thoughts, any final words of wisdom, things that you might want to impart on people that either have not started law school yet or in law school or even just starting their careers on being able to find the success in law school that will transcend into their career.
Yeah, wow, that's a good question. I think I have a fundamental principle that I kind of follow even to this day, and it's this: work to learn, not to earn. Meaning don't do anything just for money. Especially in law school. If you go through school, look for experiences that are going to educate you and benefit you. And you will earn from those experiences down the line. And that even applies to someone that's just graduating from school. And I think even where I'm at, I still have that mindset: work to learn, not to earn. For example, early in my law school experience, I decided to volunteer at a lot of places. A lot of people got a job, even if it was a low-paying job, because they needed money. My attitude was that I would rather work a different job, but then also volunteer for free to get the experience that would teach me. And that was more important than just having a job. And really, it made such a huge difference in almost everything that I did. Like I said, I volunteered for a legislator. I volunteered at a small solo firm. I volunteered in a couple other places. Like I did some of these different activities that professors would offer. I did them for free. I worked for different professors as like a teaching research assistant. It was all to get the experience, not for the money. And that even applies in practice. I would do certain projects, even though I knew I couldn't charge necessarily for all of my time as an attorney, as a young attorney, but I knew that if I did it this first time, then it would be really valuable and I would probably be able to get more clients going forward, because I did it this first time. And I had no desire to have this particular project be the money-making project. I was more, what can I get from this that I can use in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, and forever down the line. So the first thing I would say is work to learn, not to earn. Another thing I would say is that be very conscious of what types of activities you do in law school, because some activities will be really helpful in terms of your career and getting a job. Some activities look great on a resume, but don't really help you in your career. And some activities are just social activities. So I specifically sought activities, again, because I was busy and I actually had 2 children with my wife in law school, so I just had very little free time. I didn't really have time to do a lot of the social activities, which can be really fun and really rewarding. I had to really be very selective about which activities I did. And so I was actually president of a student organization, but it was one where I got to invite speakers from a list, and the national organization actually paid speakers to come in, and I could make these incredible connections with these speakers from all over the country, and I still have a lot of their contact info and can stay in touch with them today because I made this connection in law school. And these are national speakers that appear on CNN and Fox News and MSNBC, all of these different news outlets that I have contact with. And so it's just, I saw a huge benefit. And plus, I thought that was the only student organization really that was discussing legal issues. And that was what interested me, not necessarily doing a social event. And I'm not saying don't do the ones with social events, but for me, since I had limited time, I saw that as a huge and very efficient way to spend my time. It gave a lot of value, and really, like I said, work to learn, not to earn. It really came down to what was I learning and gaining. So think about the activities. In fact, I did do law review, which everyone says, looks great on a resume. And now that I've gone through law review and been working in private practice where there's a lot of writing, I do a lot of writing, it is helpful to have that type of attention to detail, attention to grammar and syntax and things like that. But I wasn't the all-out law review person. I didn't try to be editor-in-chief. I was just, a regular editor. And I think it really benefited me because I still had it on my resume. It still looked good, but I didn't have to spend, 50 to 60 hours a week for 3 terms to get that experience. Now, for some jobs that you do, or that you would like to do, that might be really necessary, right? If you want to clerk for a judge, they're going to look at that type of thing. But I knew that that's probably not the route that I was going to go down. So I would say be intentional about your activities. And even with that intentionality, I decided that I might take one less class and try to get better grades in order to do those other activities that I talked about. I still was full-time the entire time, but I didn't do necessarily, a full five class term. I did maybe 4 classes or 3 classes during the summer when I knew, we were going to have the baby, right? So it was just I had a little more time, but not much. Really, it came down to being intentional, like we talked about, being very careful about my planned activities, and then sticking to my big goals, like I said, stay married and really have a job that I could have at the end of, my law school career. And whether it's through being a solo practitioner or working for a firm somewhere, that was what I wanted to do.
Well, John, I really want to thank you for being with us today, for sharing all of this valuable advice and valuable insights. I know that we could be talking for a couple hours here on all the different things that you did to set yourself apart, and we didn't even touch on what you have been doing in the last 5 years to find the success that you've been able to find in your current position. And so we may need to have you back here in the future.
Sure, anytime.
Well, that was another great guest this week on the Law School Insider. If you have an interest in being a guest on the show, drop me an email at lawschoolinsider@Cooley, COOLEY.edu. And thank you all for listening today, and remember, you have the ability and right to take control of your law school's success. I hope you'll continue listening, creating a plan for success that will prepare you to achieve the dreams that you have set for yourself. Talk to you next time. Thanks for listening. You're on your way to being a law school insider. Please subscribe to stay connected and come back again next time as we speak to more students, lawyers, and employers.